this is my clinical goal reflection for the spring of 2017. And when reviewing my individualized goals from the first week, I think I did pretty well this semester. I think to start with, I had a leadership goal for the casting and orthotics labs for the DAT weekends, and I was able to get the grant approved last semester, I think, and I attended the continuing education course in Chicago late in March, and that went really well. I was definitely the only athletic trainer in a room full of occupational therapists, so that was definitely an experience. I learned a lot about orthotics in that, and I have already actually facilitated several labs. We ended up doing more than just the 2 DAT weekends like I originally thought, so I've actually done 2 labs for the care and prevention course for the undergraduate students. I've already completed the first year DAT weekend lab as well, and I will be doing it again this coming weekend for my classmates. So I think that goal went really well, and I've been really successful, and I think it's been kind of fun having multiple different labs to facilitate because, I've changed up my approach to the labs and what we're teaching, how we're teaching it. So I think it's improved every time that I've done it. That's been a really cool experience, and I feel like the students have been really receptive of casting and orthotics, and so I was really happy that I was able to accomplish that this semester. For my continuing education goal that I made for myself, that was the future goal, and so mine was to continue to attend the District 10 meeting every year. And, the thing that I could have done now for that was to contact the secondary school committee there, because I really wanted to start getting involved in the state level or district level. And I haven't done that yet, and I'm not sure I'm going to, simply because I've been looking at some jobs in Oregon now, and Washington, and potentially some other settings than the secondary school setting. And I think typically to be on those committees, you have to be working in the secondary school setting, if I'm not mistaken. So I do think that's still a goal of mine, to be on a committee, to start serving at that level. But now that, plans have kind of changed a little bit, even throughout the semester, I am kind of pushing back, making some of those contacts till I potentially get there and am in the district. For a clinical goal, I worked really hard at the end of last semester and the beginning of this semester to try to develop a injury prevention program for my baseball team. And unfortunately, it didn't really go as well as I had hoped. I spoke with the coaches, developed this plan. My student even helped me kind of dive into some literature. We built a plan, and they just really were not receptive to it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to take the time. They do a pretty decent throwing progression every day prior to practice and games, and so they felt like that was sufficient. So they warm up their shoulders enough so it's preventing injury, which is obviously not the case, but they just really weren't receptive to it. So I really had to modify that, and I've been kind of doing it more individualized for the patients that I can convince to come in and see me, when they typically has to be during their 6th period class or after practice, which not everybody's willing to do, because the coaches are pretty much not allowing them to miss any practice time to see me, even if they're currently injured. Otherwise, they have to run or get some other type of punishment. And that is something that I've been in contact with my supervisor about, and we're potentially going to take that to the athletic director, because I'm just not being utilized, and I think that it's unfair to my patients that they're getting penalized for seeing me. So even though the injury prevention program didn't work, I think it exposed some things for us to try to fix in the future for this clinical site and with this particular coach. So I have been able to do it, like I said, with 2 of my baseball players as individuals. And so I did more of an individualized screening than I was intending on doing. And so I do think it's benefited them pretty significantly based on the outcomes I've gotten so far. So for my coursework goal, it was the development and implementation of the behavioral health recognition and referral policy, which went great this semester, honestly, easier than I thought. Development took a while, had to do a lot of research, but once I really presented it to my stakeholders, my supervisor, and Yvette at Union Hospital, it went really well. So everybody felt like it was a really great addition. We were able to get it approved this semester. I had a staff meeting to discuss the new policies with my staff members. So I really do feel proud that I was able to make a difference as far as policies, procedures go, to make it a safer place for my patients at this clinical site in the future. For my final goal, I made a scholarship goal, and originally it was to modify my legal issues paper from last year to make it for the NATA News. But after we wrote these, we kind of decided to do a documentation topic instead. So I was still able to just finished and submitted my final draft for the NATA News column, but it was on medical documentation and moving past just considering it for legal purposes. So I really dove into other reasons why we should be documenting and how it can improve the quality of healthcare that we're providing. So that was a really challenging paper for me to write, to be honest. There's just not a lot of information out there. But I do really hope that gets accepted and published at some point in time. So, I think overall I feel pretty good. My leadership, my coursework, and my scholarship goals went really well for me this semester. My clinical, I ran into some issues, and as much as I do think I probably could have used some of the skills a little bit better that we've learned as far as overcoming some of those barriers, I do think I've made the right steps to hopefully make it better in the future for another athletic trainer who potentially wants to implement something with the baseball team. And my continuing ed goal, like I said, my career goals are kind of up in the air right now, so that's a little bit challenging to kind of take the initial steps for my future continuing education as of right now. But obviously, it's still going to be something important for me once I figure out what job I'm going to take.